So doing last session of the year today, how did it all go? It was a pretty hard session there for the boys.
Yeah, well, it's not our last. We've got one more on Friday, okay. So the guys will finish the week off on Friday. But yeah, they're progressing well. We've had a good solid block of training. Our 1 to 4 year guys have been back for 5 weeks, and this is the end of the third week for our main squad. So we're able to build some reasonable intensity and volume in the sessions, which is good.
Have you got everything that you wanted to get out of this pre-season so far?
Oh, look, it's hard to judge because it's been quite a short period. We've identified at the end of last year, we identified some areas we want to work on, and we started that process. That'll continue into January though, because it's we've got to be mindful of building the squad and the playing group to the point where we can probably do some of the things we want at the right level of intensity. But we're certainly heading in the right direction, which is good.
You spoke about, I suppose, being tougher at the contest and also developing players to play multiple roles.
Yeah.
How are those two sort of aspects going so far?
Yeah, look, we've done more work in the contest this pre-season than we did last pre-season before Christmas. So that's a tick for us, and some of that's contested stuff, some of that's technique around it as well. So we're sort of working on both angles there. The flexibility is something which will probably evolve through the pre-season as we get guys. We want to make sure guys are still really strong in their primary role, but we want to build those secondary roles for guys, and we'll see that as we start doing more match sim into January.
You mentioned strong in the contest stuff. Does that mean you've done more of that match simulation now than you would have before? Is that
probably a little bit of that. More, we've done a few more, maybe handball games and some other things which we might have brought into the training after Christmas last year. So, but as I said, a lot of it's also the technique. So we're able to do a lot of stuff, not in main session, but also away from the main session on the shed floor, for instance. We can work on some of the fundamentals and the technique side of it.
You mentioned last year you kind of adopted Walsh's squad and didn't want to change too much in the pre-season. Is there anything you've learned from last year that you've put into practice this year, or any changes that you've made?
Look, I think at the end of last season we sort of reflected on the year, and there were some real positives out of last year. We certainly walked away disappointed with the final result, but took some real positives into where we'd probably evolved a little bit with our ball movement and some of our team defence. And the learnings are what we're really practicing now and what we're trying to build. So I've always said we wanted to be a really balanced, even footy team. We probably felt our contest stuff dropped off a little bit last year, so that's a bit of a focus for us. But we've got to make sure we stay strong in the areas that we were historically strong in last year, because that's what made us play some really powerful football.
Tomo's future was up in the air for a while. Was that your call to bring him back in, or how did that go down?
Oh, look, that was a decision of our list management at the end of last year as to where Scott's at. His form, last year was really solid, and we recognise that age becomes an issue, but reality is it's more based on how he's feeling and how his body was recovering and how he was playing. And I think the collective decision was we felt that he had another season in him, and he also brings a wealth of experience in what we've got. I think himself and Eddie, the only two over 30. So it's not like we're sitting with a lot of more mature age players on our list. So yeah, I mean Scott's in training and he's pushing and getting ready for round one.
When you say another season to go, is that a season of 22 games at least, or is that a season where it could be 15 games and a few in the sample?
Yeah, it could be. We'll wait and see how it all pans out. I mean, his priority is to get himself in the best shape, and he's a true professional. He's been doing this for a long time, Scott. So, and he's a competitive animal who wants to compete for a spot. So, but he's probably being realistic. It's unlikely you'll see him play 22 games for us next year. Whether that's through resting or others, we'll wait and see how the lie of the land falls.
Assuming he's fit like all the time, do you see him as a predominantly AFL player, or as a player who plays in the SANFL and you use when you need to?
Oh, I think we'll see how it pans out. I mean, I think we're talking to Scott about looking at maybe using him in another role as well, across half back, might give him another string to his bow. But he's got great experience, he's got great leadership, and he competes. And if he's doing that and doing it at a high level, then it's really up to one of the other younger guys to push him out of his spot. I don't think he's going to give it up, and I don't expect him to, because that's what we want. We want that strong competition for positions.
I was going to say, probably hope, that one of the younger guys does, kind of push him out of the spot.
Well, we want that from all our younger guys. I mean, that's the improvement we see in the squad, is that we've got some guys who played some footy last year regularly, in say Rory Atkins, the Crouch boys, but they still haven't played 50 games. So they've started to get some midfield exposure and experience, and some guys who didn't get opportunities last year, who I know are really keen to push for a spot. So I expect that when we get back after Christmas, there's going to be some guys pushing hard for round one with a real clear focus on trying to grab a spot.
With Tomo having that new string to his bow across half-back, is that tough to teach a midfielder who's been playing the same position for 15 or 16 years?
Yeah, look, we'll see how it goes. I mean, it's not something we expect he's going to be 100% at half back, but it just gives us some flexibility, which we've spoken about in the off season. We want to build some more flexibility into our list, and so we're looking at guys who can play multiple roles, and that's both midfielders going back, midfielders going forward, forwards playing midfield. So we think that we can evolve in that space.
Well, if Tomo does go back there, does that allow you to say push a Rory Laird into the midfield at times?
Yeah, well, they're the options we're looking at. I mean, I don't know whether they're all going to pan out. We've probably got a board at the moment with guys clearly developed really strong capability in their main role last year, and I was mindful of making sure that certainly in my first year I wanted guys to understand and learn their key role and what they're in the side for. And I think now we can start exploring which guys might be able to help in other areas or be able to give us some flexibility in that landscape. So who works out and who doesn't, I don't know, but it won't be like we're tossing the board on the magnets up every week. It'll just be give us that optionality which we really want.
Just on Bryce, how keen is Tomo to take on that new challenge?
Oh, he's keen. I've been talking to him through all the off season. He's as he always does. He's looked after himself really well. He's come back in great shape, and he understands that likelihood is that this is going to be his last season, and he's keen to do whatever it takes to help us continue to play well. And his role will be, as I said, we'll assess that as the season gets closer.
Just on Bryce Gibbs, it's an old story now, but he said to the Age that the trade probably fell through because the club let it out early. Was it a mistake, the tactics the Crows kind of went with to put it out there so early?
Yeah, look, I saw some of the article on that, and it was, look, we reflected on that, the trade period, and I guess our assessment was at the end of it, we felt what we put forward was a reasonable and fair offer for Bryce and where he was at and so forth, and unfortunately Carlton didn't see it that way. There was no deal done. We move on.
Wasn't it a mistake though for Justin to make those comments on the first day of the trade period to say that Bryce wants to come home to South Australia?
Well, my understanding is that Carlton had been made aware the previous week that was his intention. So whether it was a mistake to put it out, I think it was it was known certainly at Carlton, and clearly once we knew that he was interested in coming back, we wanted to work towards getting a deal done.
Just as a result of that, most people from the outside would look at the Crows list and say that the question marks over the midfield next year to compete with those really top teams. Are you confident you've got the players here to compete with, like the Sydney midfield, the Bulldogs, those absolute elite midfields in the league?
Yeah, we're banking on the development of the group we've got. We saw a lot of that last year. I had a similar question last year when we started with the loss of Dangerfield, and it was like, well, how are you going to fill this hole? And we saw guys step up and fill that hole. And as I said all last year, we're going to rely on an even contribution. We're not going to sit here and ride the coattails of one or two players. That's a great opportunity for our younger guys, and there's guys I know who worked hard in the SANFL last year who were better players at the end of last year, but through lack of opportunity didn't get to show that at AFL level. So if I was one of those guys, I'd be hitting every session, ready to go, pushing my claims. And again, the guys we've brought in our draft, some of those guys have got the capability of playing senior footy next year. So great opportunity. What we'll do is provide the platform for them and the program to give them the chance to play as well as they can.
Like you said, Don, you've got a stack of players who are challenging for a midfield spot. Can they still lock them down, or do you actually want to see all of them have a go at it during the year?
Well, I'm sorry, what's in...
Well, is there a chance for them to lock down their spot in the midfield, or do you actually want to see all of them have a bit of a go?
Well, I think we'll assess what we do through the pre-season cup games as to giving guys opportunities. I think last year, the way it worked out last year, we were sort of forced to rest a few guys in the second game, and most teams will generally play around with their list in the early games to give opportunity to guys, and we'll be no different. I think this year is going to be our first game. What's it? The ICT Cup, or was it? JNT. Sorry, the JLT Cup. So we'll play around with what it looks like for our first game there, possibly to give those guys that chance that I know they've been looking for a long time.
Source today had his foot being looked at today by a couple of the trainers. Just is there anything there?
Who's that?
The Source.
Okay. No, not as well. He might have had a blister, or maybe his Santa suit didn't fit in properly. I'm not sure.
What about JJ and Tom Lynch? How are they travelling? They didn't train a lot today.
Yeah, no, they're tracking really well. We've got some guys on modified programs. Both those guys had some end-of-season surgery, so we're just mindful of their load and building them up, but they're progressing as we expect. And I'd expect they'll come back into full training in the early part of January or middle of January. So.
Thanks, guys.
Just quickly, if I can just say to everyone out there, thanks for your support during the year, and hope you have a great Christmas, New Year to our fans and members and supporters. wish them a very Merry Christmas. It's great to see them out today supporting the footy club, and look forward to that in 2017.